Welcome to another episode of Benny and the Guests. Before we start this episode, please be reminded to check out our sponsors on the breaks. Subscribe on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Podcasts. And finally, enjoy the show.
Hey guys, we're going to get to the show in just a minute. But for right now, I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors. Sometimes when you're driving on the road, you start hearing that thudding going on, maybe that oil change light comes on, you think, oh shit, what am I going to do? That's when you should reach out to Action Automotive. Located in St. Robert, Missouri at 128 April Drive, Action Automotive is your place to go for everything from oil changes to engine and transmission swaps. I know personally the owners, Caitlin and Evan York, who are two wonderful people from my hometown, and they just had their newborn baby. They're open from Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. If you got that oil light on, you're thinking about getting, it's time to switch out that 250,000 mile transmission on that square body you got going on. These are the guys you want to go to, okay? Reach out to them. That's Action Automotive in St. Robert, Missouri, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benny and the Guests. With you, as always, is me, Ben. I'm joined today by one of the Army's excellent leaders, J.D. Howard. J.D., how are you doing today?
Good, brother, man. Thank you for having me on.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming on. J.D., I'm going to go by that if it's okay for the podcast, but he is one of those senior leaders in the Army, Sergeant Major. Currently, you're at 18th Airborne Corps, right?
That's correct. Fort Liberty, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Out there crushing it. He's been crushing it for a while. I've always, from afar, I've viewed you. I've seen what you've been doing out there, and I know from word of mouth as well as actions what you've done for the troops. So I just wanted to get kind of your backstory and hear how it all went for you. So we're going to dive down JD's life, what brought him through to the Army, and what he's been doing now, all his experiences and stuff. So, JD, if we could start, just tell me a little bit about, where you're from, how you were raised up, the kind of those childhood years, and then what kind of brought you into your early adulthood.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate that awesome introduction and all those kind words. I'm humbled, definitely, for the opportunity to be able to do what I do. But yeah, backstory about me. I'm from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I was born and raised there. Pretty typical, childhood, right? Like we all had our ups and downs, and I have some siblings. I had a younger brother. He's only like 14 months younger, but I mean, still a younger brother, I guess. But I grew up with the same responsibilities, and I was really, really into sports, growing up, and my my upbringing didn't really allow for me to play sports. My dad, my real father, I was raised by my stepdad, but at this time, my real father, he really wasn't into that. He wasn't spending the extra money for me to do extracurricular activities and things like that. So, it took me a while. I ended up starting off doing the team thing in sports and stuff pretty late. I think like 7th or 8th grade is by the time I started actually doing team sports, and I ended up being really good. And that was my dream from there. I wanted to play football, and everything that I did, surrounded myself in sports, and especially football.
And sorry to interrupt. That's down in Florida. It's pretty, like I'm from Missouri. So sports aren't really that big around here, except for like basketball a little bit. But like down south, that football and stuff, that's like a way of life, right? Like that, it was crazy when you were in high school, right?
That was it. Everybody wanted to play ball. So you were the football player, you were a baseball player. Those are the two big sports. Basketball kind of took the sideline, no pun, but football was definitely it. And growing up a Seminoles fan and being right down the street from Tallahassee, I was ingrained, and that's where me and my friends wanted to go to school. And a lot of our guys from that area are recruited through Florida State, in that Gulf Coast region, just because of the locality of it. So yeah, it was a big thing. But moving forward, um, you know, plans don't necessarily work out, right?
Right.
Through ninth grade to 11th grade, I was all conference player of the year. I was defensive player of the year. Like, I was a shining star and in the sport that I loved. But I couldn't handle the pressures, right? And the expectation of trying to maintain the status that I was in, and the regard that I was held. By nature, I'm an introvert, and I don't like the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really know that about me, right? Because I'm always out there doing this, that, and the third. But that's not my natural habitat, so to speak. Like, I like to be behind the scenes. I like to see people win. I like to be, a part of the team. And I'm going to give 110% if I can, and everything that I do. But I really don't care for the accolades. I really don't care for the awards. I really don't care for the attaboys. My joy comes from seeing other people win. And, it just became a lot for me. I really didn't know why I was feeling that way. And my senior year was coming up, and those expectations were just astronomical, and
Yeah.
what coaches, what my parents, what my friends, what, expected me to do. And I had a fucking meltdown. I had uh, I really didn't know what to do. So when spring training came, um, and it was time for us to go to camp for our senior year, I didn't go.
Was it just
I
the
made a
just
time.
the level of stress and everything? You were just like, this is too much, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, I mean, I didn't know why, right? Because I didn't know about being an introvert. I didn't know what extrovert, I didn't know all those
yeah.
things.
You're not doing
I just,
psyche valves on yourself. You're just like, this don't feel right. I'm not doing this
right.
shit.
17-year-old kid, like, it's not like it is these days where you got all the social media, you got access to information. And, you know, it was like my little town, where we were at, the expectations. I used to get treated pretty well in school when I was going through, because people thought that, I was going to get out of there and get into the league. Danny Warfel, he was our quarterback at the time. So we had some pretty big skill. We had quite a few people make it to the league out of our high school. Another guy named E.G. Green. Um, but so those expectations were there. Like, there was special peoples in these programs that were going to excel. And lo and behold, like, senior year, I didn't play. I sat out. I pretty much lost everything. And our school won the state championship for the state of Florida. And everybody who was recruited went to a big school and
Damn.
lived out their dreams. And I went to the Army. And it wasn't by choice, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this is kind of how the story begins. Um, I graduated high school barely, honestly, at the time, because I was like super depressed, and didn't care about school at that point. Didn't care about anything. Didn't have any direction or purpose. Um, I was working when I graduated. I was working as a warehouse keeper, sweeping floors, stocking shelves.
Oh yeah.
All the meaningless, task. Um, and my boss at the time, he just retired 20 years out of the Marine Corps. His name was John, and he'd be like, "JD, man, like, what are you gonna do with your life?" I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "What do you think about the military?" Nah, shit ain't for me. I'm not with the military. You know, I don't want anything to do with it. You know, my brother, my younger brother, he grew up playing Army, wearing camouflage and playing in the woods. Like, I didn't want none of that shit.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted the sports. I wanted the limelight. I wanted you know, all the things that I wanted, you know, I really didn't want, but that's what I thought I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, "Oh, you're wasting away in here sweeping these damn floors. You know, you need to figure it out. Like this isn't it." And I was like, "Look, man, I graduated like 6 months ago. Like, I'm figuring it out." He's like, "You need to go into the military. Just get away from here. You know, start over before you mess your life up." And you know, one day, you know, after this conversation, I scraped up enough cash to go treat myself to lunch, and I went over to um, my at the time girlfriend's house, you know, to have lunch, and there was a recruiter there talking to her, right? And I'm just like, I got 30 minutes, you know how civilians are, right? You got to
Yeah.
eat,
Quick
you got to
lunch.
get. I really shouldn't even have stopped, honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you know, and you know,
Between
he
the
was like,
drive
"Hey,
there, the drive back, the clocking in and stuff, it's all like,
right." You know, he's like, he looks at me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What do you mean? I'm at lunch, man. I got to get back to work." You know, he's like, "Well, you thought about the army, this and that." I was like, "Nah, man, I'm not doing the military, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Well, just give me a couple of minutes." I was like, "All right, man, while I'm eating, you can talk. You know, as soon as I'm done, I'm gone." And he starts talking. The 2 minutes turned in about 30. I'm late, right? I'm like, "Look, I really got to go."
yeah.
I get back to the warehouse. I'm almost an hour late coming back. John's like, "Where the hell have you been?" Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Man, this freaking recruiter, he was over at this house where I was eating lunch, and you know, he started talking, he wouldn't shut up, and I was trying to get out of there." He was like, "What'd you tell him?" I was like, "I told him not interested. I got a job." He's like, "Bullshit, you're fired." I was like, "What? You
Oh
don't
my
fucking work
God.
here anymore." You know, and I'm like, "You can't do that." He's like, "I can," and I did. "You'll thank me later. Go tell the recruiter you're unemployed and you need a job."
That's wild.
So,
That's wild. Not anymore. You're gone. Shit.
yep.
Oh my gosh.
And,
Did were you pretty like when you got done? You were like, I'm not interested. Was there like a little flame lit though that was like, what if? Or were you still just like, nah, this ain't for me?
nah, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Oh.
I just
And then you get
just
fired
didn't.
because then you're just like, well, shit. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That's funny.
Yeah. So I go and talk with my stepdad. So my stepdad, he's an Air Force combat controller,
Oh.
right?
Okay.
So for anybody who doesn't know what an Air Force combat controller is, they're a joint terminal attack controller who call the airstrikes in at the tactical level, right? So these are the guys on the ground working in special operations. He was um, a uh, senior master sergeant at the time, which is an E8, and he was, you know, in Desert Storm. He jumped into Panama. He jumped in with the Rangers. First wave, second bird. Cleared the airfield for comically enough the 82nd to come in,
Yeah.
and you know, his team captured Noriega and got him out with another tier one asset. But I talked to him about it, and I was like, "Look, you know, he's always pushed the military, and again, that's never been my path that I thought, anyways. But he always pushed it, and so I talked to him. He's like, "You know what? Just go in the Air Force." I was like, "All right." He's like, "Look, I'll take you down there. I'll go with you. I'll be in uniform. We'll make this thing work out. You'll come be a combat controller." I didn't know what a combat controller was, right? Because I wasn't, again, I didn't socialize with the military aspect. I didn't really care. I know he did cool stuff. Actually, I thought he was a pilot because he had like all his flight suits, O2 mask, helmet, and all. I was like, maybe he
No.
flies something. But he he takes me to the Air Force recruiter, and I still remember to this day, right? She looks, I come in the door, he's standing in front of her, I'm standing in front of her. She's eating her lunch. She didn't even look up, right? She didn't look at me. And he was like, yeah, my son wants to join the Air Force. And she just kept eating. And she was like, I got 3 questions. All right, what is it? He was like, did you graduate high school? Yep. Has he ever been arrested? Nope. Has he got a tattoo? Any tattoos? He was like, yes, we don't want him.
Damn, Annie?
He was like, what? She was like, it's non-negotiable, not waivable. So go to the Marines or the Army, they'll take you. Swear to God. I was like, what the hell? He was like, what the fuck? He's trying to be a combat controller. She's like, I don't care what he's trying to be. We're not taking him. We don't have a waiver for him.
Man.
So I didn't go in the Air Force. So I was like, I'm not going in the Marines. Not going to have, definitely not the Navy. Can't do the outfits, you know.
The 20 different outfits, yeah.
Yeah, the old bell-bottom thing,
Yeah.
the dungaree thing. Right? It just wasn't sitting with me, right? So I went back to the Army with my hat in hand, and the recruiter was there. He's like, oh, you look familiar. I was like, yeah. Talked to you a couple weeks back. And he's like, so the Army then? Like, yeah, I guess. So he asked me about the ASFAB. Obviously, you know, I never took the ASFAB because I didn't plan on going to the military. He's like, all right, look, you know, you can do a pre-test today, and, you know, we'll see what your scores are and see if you're ready to go to MEPS and do this and that, and then we can talk about jobs based off your score. And keep in mind, like I said, I barely graduated, right? Because I just totally fell out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Are you worried about the ASVAB then at that point? Or are you like,
I didn't even know what the ASVAB was.
you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I didn't realize how long it was. And, you know, I took the pre-test. He's like, yeah, you're all right. You should probably pass. You know, I don't remember what the score was initially. And he was like, well, based off these scores, these are the jobs that you would qualify for. There was only 3.
Oh, no.
There was only 3. So I think it was like helicopter mechanic.
Probably like infantry or something.
I think it was the infantry at the time, or no, it was artillery. It was artillery, helicopter mechanic, and watercraft operator. I was like, look, tell me about this watercraft operator. Right? Because growing up in Florida, growing up on the water, I was always on a boat.
Yeah.
Right. So my second dream essentially was getting a boat captain's license, being a charter boat captain, and just being on the water. Right. So I was like, man, I can do that in the Army. You know, I can do that in the Army. He's like, yeah, man, you get to drive boats, man. Like, it's perfect. And you start selling it, right? I'm like, hell yeah. I was like, cool. You know, yeah, I'll do that. He's like, all right, man, like, let's schedule your ASFAB, and then we get you to MEPS. So, you know, he's like, you got a couple of weeks, study up. So back then, I don't know if they still do it now, but they had the buddy program.
They just restarted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, you know, me and my cousin, we were like, yeah, we'll do the buddy program. And, you know, so I roped him in, you know, because, you know, of course, he's like, you know, anybody else, you know, looking for a job, basically. Yeah. And so we go, you know, I bring him in and we go and take the ASFAB together. We show up. It was like 7:30 in the morning. So to a high school kid, that's pretty damn early.
So early.
Right? You know, I'm not even thinking straight. I didn't even drink coffee or anything back then. I didn't know anything about all this, you know, those good pick-me-ups, right? So I go in there, I'm damn near like half asleep, you know, and take this test. I barely passed. I passed, but I barely passed by like maybe 1 or 2 points. My cousin doesn't pass at all. I think he got like a 17 or something.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if he got his name right, but he doesn't pass. So I'm like, he's like, nah, man, don't go. Wait for me. And I was like, man, I got to go. I got to get out of here. And I left. You know, I went to MEPS. We did Montgomery MEPS. in Alabama.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where it started. I got the watercraft job, and he was selling it like, yeah, you go to Panama, Hawaii, they got spots in Virginia, all these tropical, it's all by the water. It's kind of cool. You're doing Navy stuff and Coast Guard, but you don't even have to deal with all that crap. You're wearing Army uniform. I was like, yeah, man, cool. Sounds good. I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Delta 213, Delta Dog. You just never forget. Those are things like
Yeah,
you
the
never
little ones
forget.
you never forget. Yeah, for sure.
Those are the things. Like, honestly, it was 26 years ago, 1996. Was when I went to basic training. Maybe 27 years now. Shit. When I went to basic training, and basic training was easy. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the mid 90s, right? And it was crazy to me that I I went up there with a van full of folks, right? It's kind of like a prison bus, really, is what it looked like.
Yeah.
Because we're all kind of 2x2, Forrest Gump style, getting
Yeah.
up to. I didn't get to fly a plane or anything. Like, we drove all the way to Fort Jackson. The van driver is this
Oh,
old
damn!
redneck
From Alabama.
from Alabama. Like, they said we didn't qualify to fly because we were close enough to drive. The van driver, this is a 15, 16 pack van, right?
Yeah.
The windows don't open in that. This dude's hotboxing cigarettes the whole damn time, right? This is the 90s.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
You still do it.
window up, air blowing, but it's just all cigarette smoke. And we're all just in there like, what the fuck?
You're all coughing and shit. He's like, "Shut the hell up back
Yeah,
there."
so we get up there the next day, and we get out, and everybody's like falling out of the van trying to get the hell out of there. Drill sergeant's like, everybody smells like smoke. Like, who? None of you fuckers can smoke. What is this? Contraband, blah. Like, dude, it ain't even us,
The bus driver's just
Van
laughing his
driver,
ass off at you.
yeah, he's just laughing like, have fun, boys, and it's kind of how we kicked that off. So it was interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought reception was basic. Nobody told me like this was the easy part, because I'm
Yeah.
eating good. We're waking up whenever we want. Nobody's yelling at us. It's cool. I'm like, man, this shit ain't nothing.
Yeah.
And then the other bus pulls up a couple of weeks later after, I guess, they fill up, right? I've never been a drill sergeant. So
Yeah.
um,
No,
they
you're all
fill
in
up,
line outside waiting or
you know,
whatever.
right. Then the shark attack thing starts happening. It's
Yeah.
like, oh shit. Like, then we go to basic. There's no more good food. Like, everybody's yelling. But the thing was, like, I was the first person in my platoon to get smoked and the last one to get smoked, getting there and leaving, right? So we show up, we go into the barracks, after all the shark attacking and all the belittling, that they used to do back in the day
Yeah.
we call it the rites of passage. Today they call it what?
It's the first 100 yards now. It's way different. It's way, way different now.
Yeah, today it'd be called hazing and bullying. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Back then it was a rites of passage. It's like, this is what we did.
Yeah.
And shit, there were still like Vietnam era dudes like still serving when I came in, right? So pretty old school dudes. And so my drill sergeant, he was a neat freak, and he was all about looking good, right? He always talked about how sexy he was, right? I'm a good looking motherfucker. That's what he used to say, right? And none of you fuckers would look better than me. None of you'll ever look better. You'll never have this physique. He was just that dude, right?
Just cocky as
And
shit.
so we had 30 seconds to get up there and drop our bags and find a bunk, right? And of course, it's just failure. It's all about making us fail and suffer. And we're running up there trying to get into the bay. I think we were on the second floor. Get into the bay, of course, we don't make it, and then we get smoked. And so as we're getting smoked, we're scuffing up the floor with our boots. And drill sergeant's like, you know what? I like clean floor. I want to be able to eat off these. No more boots in the barracks. You take your boots off outside and you come back in. We're walking barefooted in
What
here.
the
Or just
fuck?
Yeah. So we were like, damn, this sucks. And so we go out and we come back in with, our boots in our hand. And I'm the only one with white socks on.
Oh, no.
So he made an example out of me of what not socks to wear.
Yeah.
It's part of your uniform. And yeah, so I was the first one to get smoked because I had white socks on, and made an example of. And I learned pretty quick. I only got to get beat up 1 or 2 times before I figure out, what I need to do. And the rest is history with basic. When I left, I was the last dude out of the barracks. I had the duffel bag on my back. I got my class A's on. I'm trying to get to the bus. I'm the last guy. And drill sergeant see me. He was like, "Drop. You're too damn slow. Just drop." I was like, God.
It
damn.
never ends. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Here I am doing push-ups with my duffel bag on my back and my Class A uniform, just trying and back on the bus because I was just going to Virginia from South Carolina, so I'm back in a van.
Oh yeah.
And then my AIT for watercraft operations is at Fort Eustis, Virginia, home of the Transportation Corps. And I learned very quickly why they called it Fort Useless.
Never heard that. That's a good one.
Yeah. But now it's the home of TRADOC and all that, TRADOC headquarters, and they cleaned it up a lot. But back in the day, it was just transporters. We had 88 mics, kilos, Novembers. If I would have known what I know now, it would have been in November.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
do you say that just because that's a useful skill, or just because yeah, I was like, I only worked with 2 of them, and they worked with the mics, but they just did less than them.
Yeah, but we had Mike's Hotels, Lima's, all these series, right?
Yeah.
So I was an 88 kilo watercraft operator. So I worked deck side. It was, I was actually driving boats. The dude didn't completely lie to me. But he didn't tell me about chipping paint and, friggin', polishing brass and all this craziness of the upkeep of these vessels. But I had a pretty rough go at it. I was really good at what I did. I did well in AIT. AIT there's 4 weeks, not that bad.
Oh, that's pretty quick. Dang.
Yeah. And then I we finished AIT in December. And the unit I went to was right there on the same installation as they were right down the street. So some guy picked me up in a Humvee at a reception or whatever, and took me straight to the field. I didn't go to the barracks. I didn't go anywhere. He was like, everybody's in the field, so you can just meet everybody out there.
Oh my God.
December in Virginia, right? I ain't have any cold weather gear. I didn't have shit. You
ain't even been to CIF or anything.
No, we didn't go to anything, right? And I get out there, and back, they got the old 916 flatbed with all their bags and stuff. It's like a 40-foot trailer with a big ass tri-wall, right? But 40 feet long.
Yeah.
Open top. And I get out there, and I don't remember who brought me out there. I don't remember too many names from back then. I kind of blocked them all out. But he's like, "Hey, this is Private Howard. He's a new member of the company." And this old dude, I won't forget his name. His name was Smith. Sergeant First Class at the time. He was like, he looked at me. He's like, "Hey, boy, get up there and fetch my bags." I was like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you talking?
Who you calling boy?"
Yeah. I was like, "Where the fuck I'm from? That's a racist word."
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't give a shit. I'm a Sergeant First Class United States Army. You're going to do what the fuck I tell you." Right. And I'm like, bullshit. This is how my career started. Right. With this guy.
What in the hell?
Now, again,
that's the first thing you hear out of AIT.
Mid-90s.
Yeah.
Right. Sexism, racism, still thriving.
Yeah.
And hell, I'll get to that. But
let me take a quick break, JD. Let me take real quick because I gotta get our time going again. But yeah, I want to hear more about this. Just give me 1 minute. Hey guys, if you're looking for a car, I'm going to recommend you somebody that I would reach out to myself. I'm going to talk about Jacob Cahill, who works out there at Rusty Druin Toyota. He's a sales consultant, and he offers a fun, low-pressure car buying experience. He's up there in Jefferson City, Missouri at 2105 Christie Drive. Any type of car you need, from used to new, he is the man to put you in the car. Okay, reach out to him. His number is 573-535-5656 at extension 542, or just reach out at jcahill at drewingauto.com. That's jcahill at drewingauto.com. I know the market right now, personally for me, has been very hard to negotiate. And, you got a lot of people that are really trying to put food on the table, and you can't blame them. But trust Jacob when he tells you he's trying to put you in the best car possible that you can afford. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Wanted to reach out to another friend here before we get done with this podcast. Just my buddy Johnny Siebert, okay? Real nice guy. He actually just started his own little business called Johnny Rotten's Egg Wax, okay? If you go skating, you're going to need a little bit of wax for your board to get those moves right and everything. Sometimes with wax, we lose it along the way. With Johnny's patented egg style wax, he's actually onto something to where you can actually just take that with you instead of losing an entire box of wax. So reach out to Johnny. What he's doing is starting to grow, and it's a great product, okay, for all you skaters out there, especially after listening to this podcast. It's definitely going to be something you're going to want in your arsenal. So that's Johnny Rotten Egg Wax, which is actually his Instagram handle. Or you can look up Johnny Rotten Egg Wax company site, and it'll take you right to how you can order. Reach out to him. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, welcome back. Sorry about that little break. We're jumping right back in. JD just got to his first duty station, which was the same one for AIT, but telling us kind of about this, this piece of shit Sergeant First Class he had, basically. He called you a boy, and then that was your first impression coming out of AIT. Just, you can dive right back in. The floor is yours, man.
Yeah, man. So, he ended up getting upset with me, this and that. He threw me on some guard duty, and they all just forgot about me, and I ended up kind of getting frostbite. I never felt like I got a fair shake at how I started my career. And I learned very quickly, about small MOSs in the Army, and, the politics that come with that, the good old boy clubs and things like that. And I learned all these things within my first 4 years of service, though I didn't know I was learning it at the time. And, just to give you some context of how bad it was there, back in the day when we wore BDUs, in summertime, we always rolled our sleeves up. They try to bring that back, with, I think, multicams or whatever.
Yeah.
But, it was a thing. Like, you had to roll your sleeves up during the summer. It's part of, you had a summer uniform and you had a winter uniform, different materials, things like that. So my squad leader had white power tattooed on his arms.
Jesus Christ.
SS lightning bolts on his wrist, and he was a skinhead, right? And what's bad is, like, he wasn't even the worst one. He was very open about where he stood, but he wasn't even the worst one. There was people like the Smith guy, who, did devious things to keep you down. So my first 3 years in the Army, I stayed on details. I painted lines, I cut grass, I swept, I pulled weeds out of cracks with my fingers. Every demeaning task you can think of. For the first 3 years, I stayed in coveralls and steel toe boots. I didn't even do my job.
Yeah.
Nobody even knew I was in the unit, right? Until one day I had enough. and the detail I was on, I quit. And the leadership of that detail was like, "You can't quit. You're in the Army." I was like, "This ain't the fucking Army. I'm done. Like, I don't give a shit what happens. I am done." And I went back to my unit. And of course, they called my unit. My unit tried to figure out like who the hell I was. My first sergeant, anyway, never seen me. I've been gone for 3 years, never seen me. So I got called into his office. I didn't even know who my platoon sergeant was. The guy introduced himself before he walked in. "Hey, I'm Sergeant so and so. I'm your platoon sergeant. Don't worry about it. Let me do the talking." Went in there and just sold me the fuck out. I was like, "Nope, that's not going down like that. This is what happened." Right. So I told him, I was like, "I've been on detail. I've been in this company 3 years. I've been on detail for 3 years." Like, Smith was already gone. Right.
Yeah.
This is a new guy. He didn't even know I was in his platoon. Right. I was like, nobody ever checked on me. Nobody ever called. I lived in the barracks. Back in the day, the company was on the bottom floor and the barracks were on the second and third floor.
Yeah.
So I lived where my company was. None of these dudes never knocked on my door, never checked on me, didn't ask how I was doing, like nothing for 3 years. And I told him that, Of course, he chewed me out and, you can't just quit and blah, blah, blah. But he was like, "You're done with details. You'll never go back to another detail." He's like, "But your attitude, you'll never get promoted either." And at that time, I was like, I knew what a retention control
It's like
point was.
it's ironic
I was
talking to
like,
you
"Dude,
now.
if I don't get promoted, you're gonna pay me to get out." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I know what my RCP is." I was like, I'm coming up on almost 4 years of service, and I'm still at E2. You're gonna pay me. He was like, "What?" He looked at all this, obviously he didn't do math well.
Yeah.
But I didn't get promoted like nothing. They just wrote me off. And
Even a
so
PFC and specialist, that's wild.
I automatically, made PFC at the time. So
Well,
that
yeah,
bought
but
me time for them. And then those first sergeants swapped out. And this first sergeant I remember, his name's Eubanks, and I got put back on a boat and I was out there doing my thing and I'm running circles around these dudes. I ain't even been on the boats, but I was just a natural at doing things, right? Hands-on things. It's kind of why, I was a great athlete and stuff like that because I could adapt well and, I had pretty good coordination.
mm-hmm.
And so I'm running circles around these guys and the first sergeant, Eubanks, he's like, "Why are you a PFC? How long you been in?" I was like, "Almost 4 years." He's like, "Why are you a PFC?" I was like, "Because they don't promote around here." He's just like, started laughing. I was like, "Look, I've been marginalized. I've been sidelined. I've been blackballed. Like, I'm just waiting to get out." He's like, "Why are you going to get out?" I was like, "Because this ain't the fucking Army. This isn't what I thought I was coming into." I just laid it all out.
Sorry, quick question for you. During this whole time, this is, I think a lot of privates, not to this extent, obviously, but a lot of young dudes go through this. Did you have anybody you could confide in, whether it was at that unit or back home, like that you could like, this is what's going on and it's bullshit, or like, that like trust in that you could air your grievances to? Because that's a lot to take on your shoulders for 4 years.
No, nobody gave a shit, but I did seek out a chaplain.
Okay.
I went and talked to the battalion. Well, actually, I didn't even make it in to see the chaplain. I talked to the chaplain assistant at the time, but he told me something that I'll never forget, and I'll always live by, even to this day. But what he told me was, first of all, he asked me why I was there. I was like, I need to speak to somebody. Like, I'm going through it. I need to talk to somebody. He was like, "Well, can you talk to me?" I was like, "I don't know. Like, will you listen?" He was like, "It's my job." He's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I'm just complaining really about everything that's going on. Lack of leadership, lack of trust, how they just hung me out to dry. I'm not getting promoted. I'm not given opportunities, this and that, and he's like, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" I was like, "What do you mean? I can't do shit. I'm a private." He was like, why don't you get promoted? I started laughing. I was like, look, man, if it was that easy, like I'd already been promoted. He's like, no, like you're never going to change anything from the bottom, right? If you want to make change, you got to make it to the top and make the change, be the one to make the change, right? But you have a scope of influence. Somebody listens to you. Somebody's around you. You can change your circumstances at your level, and he put things in different perspective for me. Like, and that honestly, that's kind of like, kind of how the E4 Mafia is like born, because you're going to be able to influence your peers, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I influenced my peers. And, we stuck together and we did things and we looked out for each other, so my circumstances changed, but also Eubanks was there. He promoted me to specialist the very next month. And then he put me in charge of my own section. And he told the platoon sergeant, the same dude, he was like, he's one of your squad leaders now. He's in charge of that section. He hasn't answered to anybody else as a specialist. Everybody else was a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
And he gave me responsibility and I ran with it. I didn't have a whole lot of development and all that stuff at the time, but he was trying to motivate me to stay because my reenlistment window was open. I was like, dude, I'm getting out. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out. And he's like, no, you're a soldier. Don't get out. Let me send you to the board. Let me do this. Let me do that. And he tried really, really hard. And I was just so scarred that I was gone. Like, I got my certification. I did all the things I needed to do within that last year. I got my licenses and stuff on these boats. I was like, I'm going back home. I'm going to be a captain. I'm going to run, my own charter boat, and I'm putting all this behind me. And I got out. I got out of the Army in August of 2000. And I went back home, to Florida, and all my eggs were in that basket. I didn't plan to get out properly. It wasn't really a big thing. Like when you said you were getting out, everybody cut you off, right?
Yeah, because they're just like, you're of no use to us anymore.
They had the ACAP program, which was,
oh yeah,
you do that 1 week, learn how to write a resume, and that was it. Nobody gave a shit if you lived or died when you got out. You're out, you're dead to us, type of stuff. That was the mentality. So I left it at that, and I left. And when I got back home, I started applying. I didn't really do the resume thing. Like, it's not really how dock workers kind of operated back in those days. It was like based off your rep, and you started from the bottom, right? It wasn't just a Drake song. So, and you had to work your way through. But I didn't want to do that because I already had experience, right?
Yeah.
So, I took my tonnage license, which is an Army Marine certification. I was certified up to 300 metric tons ship, right? Or vessel. It wasn't a ship, it was a vessel. And so it had different endorsements, basically like ASIs and stuff like that, that I can operate and this and that. So the biggest boats that the Army had, I was able to drive it, right?
Yeah.
No issue. I had all the certifications. I had crane licenses, like all kinds of stuff. And so they were like, yeah, cool, you got to get that converted, by the Coast Guard. And then once you get your Merchant Marine or your tonnage license, then you can come back and we can talk. So I contacted the Coast Guard. They're like, yeah, we don't recognize that. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we don't recognize that. We didn't even know the Army had boats. It's like, what the fuck? So they were like, you can start over, you're going to have to take these tests. And, so they were like, we recognize the Navy, we recognize Merchant Marines, even though they're coasties, but this Army stuff, like, we never heard of it.
That's wild.
So I basically had no skills when I left. Uh, my first job out of the Army was washing cars with fucking crackheads. I was like, nah, I'm better than this. I'm not.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not gonna happen. And I was got a job delivering pizzas for Domino's, and then my car got repoed the next day. Then I didn't have that job anymore either. And yeah, so it kind of spiraled out of control when I got out. And then I thought about Banks, and I was like, man, maybe I should just try and go back in. And again, there's no war going on. The Army was downsizing at the time, so I went and sought out the recruiter, and he was all good. He was like, yeah, we'll take you, this and that. And then he seen I was prior service. He was like, we're not accepting prior service. I was like, what? They were like, yeah, we're downsizing and we're only taking new recruits.
Oh,
I couldn't even get back in the Army. It took me 3 years to get back.
yeah.
9/11 had to happen, right? And we had to go to war with Iraq for me to come back in. That's when they opened the floodgates. I was part of that flood, that surge, right? I did join the reserves. That experience was just as bad. Because the reserves, everybody know the reserves and the Guard are the good old boy system for real. Like everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And like your cousin, is the squad leader, and your uncle's the first sergeant, and your grandpa's the damn sergeant major.
Isn't it weird that's across the board? I think around the United States, that's not like a Southern thing or a Northwest thing. That's like every reserve unit, it seems like, is like that. Even to this day, I think it still kind of works that way. I think they're trying to fix it, but it still kind of goes like that.
Yeah. I mean, they're all cops, they're all jailers, they're all, but they're all family.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't successful there either. I came in with a chip on my shoulder. I came in optimistic, right? I was like, all right. I had to go chem because that was the closest unit to me. I didn't know anything about it. So they were like, hey, there's a detachment here in Panama City, Florida. We can get you set up with them and start drilling. Again, I got out in August. I started the reserves in December. Right?
Oh, okay.
So this is only a couple months, and I was already like trying to do something, get back in, and I couldn't find work. So, I get there and I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to be open-minded. Like, these are straight reservists. They weren't. Funnily enough, like, my cousin came with me too. He got out of the Army too. We got out at the same time. He ended up coming in a year after me and then got out at the same time as me. And then we joined the reserves together to be together and do this thing together finally.
Yeah.
And we both hated it. Like, we're not the most squared away because we had attitudes and stuff like that, but like, we knew our shit. Nobody could tell us anything because we run circles around him. Matter of fact, he's a first sergeant now at Fort Hood. Right, still running circle. He got selected for the academy for class 75.
Hell yeah.
So he's still rocking out. But we get there and it's just like, bruh, what the hell? These guys suck, right? So, and we ain't even been to AIT yet, but we already know like these guys suck.
Oh yeah, because you're switching. So you're like, this is.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And so we do that deal, and we try to get. Neither one of us had much to really go on. We had odd jobs, but we were like, maybe we can get on active duty order. So we try to volunteer for everything. They didn't like that, but their people weren't volunteering, so they wouldn't give us the opportunities. But we just kept after it, right? And then eventually, when in 2003, when we went to war with Iraq, like, the unit was called up to deploy. And then all of a sudden the shit got real. Like, they wanted to start doing Army stuff, right?
Yeah.
And, we're deploying and this and that. And, at that time, we were both specialists, in the reserves, but we had more experience than most of the staff sergeants and sergeant first class there because they None of them were ever active duty. And, we're trying to be helpful, right? And trying to teach them tactics, trying to, and they just they didn't want anything to do with it. And, they just kind of sidelined us again. And I was like, man, I already done this. So, all right, cool. I'm going to play my part. I was like, I'm going to influence my peers. And once that started happening, they came back to me and was like, hey, we need your help. Oh yeah, what's that? The soldiers only listen to you, so can you? I'm not doing your bidding. Well, it'd be real helpful. I really don't give a shit. Like, I'm just one of the guys.
Yeah.
Right. So no, answer's no. I'm not helping you. Right. And we did the deployment. I think it was like 6 months or so, and came back, and it was a shit time, man. And when I got back, I told them, I was like, y'all will never see me again. We deployed out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. We supported 3rd Infantry Division during the initial invasion. And then we came back in September when 3rd ID came back. They'd already been there over a year. And that was kind of like a whole scandal and whole uproar of bringing the troops home that were part of the initial invasion. And we fell in with them, and, we came back with them in September of 2003. And I told them, I was like, y'all will never see me again. And they just kind of laughed at me or whatever. Like, yeah, whatever, we'll see you at drill or whatever. We got done demobbing. I went back to Florida, and
you went to that recruiter, didn't
you? Yep. So at this point, we're living in Tallahassee. At the time, my wife was going to Florida State, and I told her, I was like, I'm going back active. And I went to a different recruiter there in Tallahassee.
Real quick, before you jump into that, when did you meet your wife at this stage? Was it while you were in the Army or afterwards?
Yeah, so I knew my wife in high school.
Okay.
We didn't date in high school, but we were friends.
Yeah.
And, so I always knew her. She was in the Army too, and she got out. She came home. So when I got out and came home, we ran into each other, and we had similar circumstances, and just kind of awkwardly got together.
How did that go? Sorry.
We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary last year. Being married, we've been together like 24, 25 years.
Awesome.
Because
I'm pretty newly married, but I've been through a similar thing. I was wondering, how did that deployment go for you while you were gone with her? I always like to hear about that.
So it was rough. We broke up. Honestly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I'm the type of person that pushes people away when things could go awry, and I didn't know, about what I was doing, with all these separation anxieties and all that. I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
But I did it subconsciously. And we broke up before I left. And, we stayed in touch. Back then there wasn't no internet and none of that. So it was like, you get a letter like once every 3 months, and I was only there for 6. So I think I only got like 1 or 2 letters.
Yeah.
It wasn't rough in a sense to, like I had to worry about what was going on back home because I didn't really have much to go back to, Once I didn't even know she moved, honestly, until I got back.
Yeah.
And I was able to get a hold of a phone. I didn't have a cell phone or any of that. My credit wasn't good enough. Back then, you had to have good credit to get a cell phone.
Yeah.
I ain't have a cell phone.
No, I got you. Yeah.
But, I found out like, oh shit, she moved. All right. So I guess I got to go to Tallahassee because I didn't have anywhere to go back to. And we reconciled, and then actually we got married shortly after I got back in September. We were married October 7th, 2003. at the courthouse in Tallahassee.
Hell yeah.
Um, you know, and then, I was like, yeah, I'm going back. I'm not going back. I'm not doing this reserve thing. I'm going back active. Like it was already in me. I've been
Mm-hmm.
activated for actually 8 months, 9 months with mobilization and demob. Um, so I was like already back in the mentality, like I'm just gonna go back.
Well, there was a lot of
The
energy
Army,
too around you. Basically, like people were pushing military. They were like, support the troops at that point. They were, that's a noble service. I think subconsciously that kind of pushes some, like, pushed a lot of people. Like, you know what, this is a good job. I'm gonna do it. And then you already had that backing to you, so it seemed like
yeah,
it was meant for you kind of to go back into it to really find your peace.
yeah, it was an easy transition, and um, yeah, everybody was like, united we stand. Everybody was patriotic. Everybody wants to serve. I guess I was part of that uh,
Yeah,
post 9/11, group that came back to serve and support and defend, right? And,
yeah,
do the honorable
the
thing.
stupid Calvin pissing on Bin Laden decals everywhere. The little
Yeah.
flags on every car. It was a good time.
Yeah. And, my recruiter was like, hey, man, like, we're taking prior service and this and that. He's like, you just came back from Iraq. Like, you got more experience than most, this and that. Because not too many people at that point are deployed,
Hmm.
especially that fresh, just coming back. I came back in September. In October, I was already at the recruiter's office,
Yeah,
right? Like, hey, get me back in. I'm ready.
yeah, that's just like
And
two rotations in. Yeah.
yeah, so um, he was like, look, man, like, you got an obligation to the reserves. I can't mess with that contract. Like, you have to get released from your unit. I was like, they ain't gonna
Mm,
release me,
yeah.
you know? And I was able to get released. Um, so the detachment commander that we had down in Panama City was a lawyer, right? He did not deploy with us forward. He found a reason to get out, but they were they weren't really messing with the guys who did deploy because that whole detachment, not everybody deployed. It's kind of
Oh,
like an augmentee thing, so you can volunteer to go.
yeah.
So not a lot of people volunteered, so we had people from many different units to make up this unit, right, and deploy. So when I got back, I was like, I knew he was busy and stuff, and he was like, "Look, I just need somebody to sign this letter of release, and I need an assumption of command orders." So, all right, cool. So I told him, I was like, "Hey, LT, I got something that I need signed, and I need your assumption of command orders." And he was like, "What is it?" I was like, "I don't remember what I told him." Um, he's like, "All right, just fax it over. I have my secretary, get it. I'm kind of busy, but I'll sign what you need, and I'll get the documentation." He didn't read it. He didn't read that he was releasing me from the
Doesn't it
reserves.
say? It says at the top of the form, like,
He didn't. He didn't read it.
oh, it's
He had
hilarious.
to. He did what he did. He got it sent back. The recruiter was like, "Good enough for me." I went to MEPS in Jacksonville, and I had to go back Kim though. I had to stay Kim,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
um, and so that's why I'm Kim. Uh, is because it was the closest unit to me, and I had to stay that when I came back. But other than that, I would have done something different. But um, I was like, I want to go to the 82nd because I wanted to do something that I knew was going to be Army. I wasn't going back to a BS freaking unit like I came from.
Right.
Like they were like, sorry, there's no slots. I was like, what else is there that's like that? He's like, the 101st. I was like, cool, what do they do? Told me, blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool, I'll take it. And
Blah blah blah. Aerosol. Blah blah blah.
December, yep, December of 2003, I was back active duty, going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Damn,
I
this is a
went to
quick
63rd.
turnaround. This is really
Oh
quick.
yeah, I told you I wasn't bullshitting.
Yeah.
Like I told those dudes, like they will never see me again. When I came back, 63rd Kim was still in Iraq. when I showed up to that unit, they were like, "We're deploying you." I was like, "Bro, I just got back." And was like, "What?" I was like, they seen the patch on my shoulders. Like, "Oh shit, when did you come back?" I was like, "I came back in September." And he was like, "Okay, well, you can stay rear D, this and that," because they were like, they wanted to deploy me over there to get a patch, right, and then help the unit come back, recover, and come home.
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
"Dude, I just got off the wash rack. I'm good. Like, I don't need that, you know." And so yeah, my first unit coming back in was 63rd Chem, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It was part of the 101st at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time I was there, and that's where my career started going up. Right. That's where I met real leaders. That's where I met, real soldiers with a purpose, direction, all the things that we established leadership to be. It was in that organization at that time, and that's what I needed at that time. I needed to be around a real unit, right, with real leaders. And I I didn't really understand my full potential. I showed up a brand new specialist. And this is back in the day where like data rank like mattered. Seniority in the squad mattered where you stood in formation. The
Yeah.
new guy, guess what? You're all the way at
Yeah,
the
all the way
end.
at the end. Yeah.
Like get left and get bent. Like this is my spot. Like it was pride.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. I'm the new guy. Get it, whatever. It's like you need to earn this, earn that. And I was like, bro, I was where you were at. Like I did that. Don't come at me with that shit, right? So there's pissing contests, this and that, and sizing you up and things, and because they all just deployed together, and they built that band of brothers, no pun, but it was the 101st, and they understood that they were part of history, that's already been written. And they were proud of that, Again, like we said earlier, right? There was a lot of pride in deploying and serving and getting that combat patch and being some of the first ones to walk around and start peacocking, right? And that's what they did. And I loved it. I loved it. I ate it because I had to, but I loved it. I was like, man, this is it. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And some of the first people I met when I came back in, I'm still in touch with these today, right? A lot of these guys made it to very senior ranks in our Corps. Some of them, not many, are still serving, um, but they're in senior level positions, doing great, wonderful things still. And these are people that I still talk to today. Some of them are battalion CSM, some of them are CSM retired, some of them are sergeants majors, some of them are CW3s, CW3 retired. One's the regimental right now for warrant officers. He was in that unit as a staff sergeant. Like all these people
Yeah.
in this organization, right? And everybody's got badges, everybody's got combat patches, everybody's just hungry to get back after it, and don't take no for an answer. And I loved it. But that's where the mentorship for me started. That's where it all started. I showed up a brand new specialist in 2003. By 2005, I was a staff sergeant.
Oh, damn.
Right.
Oh, damn.
So
Okay.
now, when I tell you I was motivated, I was goal oriented, I was hungry, yet humble. I didn't, I wanted everybody to win. I didn't step on anybody. I didn't, do any backstabbing or anything. I did it, you know, legit 100, like the right way.
Yeah.
Um, and I had my bumps along the way. My first board I went to, I got kicked out of. Um, that was pretty interesting to me because I offended the board members by being too confident. You ever heard of such a thing?
No, I haven't because I've yet to see that at a board. Somebody way
I
too
was
confident.
overly confident and I offended the board, and I got kicked out for being an asshole and too cocky. I was like, "You fucking kidding me?" And the sergeant major's like, "What the fuck? Who the hell are you to cuss at my board? Get the fuck out!" I was like, "It's fucking bullshit anyway." And I walked out. He's like, "Where the fuck are you going?" I was like, "He told me to get out." He was like, "How do you dismiss yourself?"
Oh my God. I like that they still
Oh
throw
my
that
God.
in there.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I said. I was like, "Oh my God." I threw like, some BS salute. And just,
Yeah, the biggest eye roll in the world, probably.
yeah. He's like, "Get the fuck out," and my platoon sergeant was sitting on the board. Um, she's at Fort Leonard Wood right now too. She was like, she's retired, but she was like, "What the hell was that?" I was like, "Man, this is bullshit. This doesn't define me as a non-commissioned officer," because I was a corporal then. This
Yeah,
doesn't define who I am. This board is bull, and I didn't understand the process.
right.
I didn't understand that, I need to go in here and prove to everybody else that I can sit in the hot seat and take it, instead of why ain't they out there in the field watching me train soldiers or this, that, and the third? Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
define, this
I've had
doesn't
these. I've
define
had these
who I
same.
am.
I know every other staff sergeant below too has had those thoughts of like, why don't you come watch me do my job, where
Yeah.
I'm actually crushing it. Not standing here in this bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had 30 days to retrain, and believe me, every day of that 30 days, she made it hurt. So I remembered to humble myself. So I went back the next month, and I crushed it, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy we heard about, and that's what we were looking for." And I was just like, "Yeah, whatever, thanks." I left, and I was only a sergeant for 5 months before I made staff sergeant. On my 6th month, I pinned staff sergeant. I
Oh
went right
wow.
back to the board because I already had time in service. I didn't. All I
Right.
needed was time to grade.
Yeah.
You know, and back then it was 6 months time and grade. So at the 6 month mark, I pinned staff sergeant because
Hell
I was
yeah.
eligible for the board. I crushed the staff sergeant board. I pinned staff sergeant, and people when I came back in as a specialist, most of these guys were sergeants. When I pinned staff sergeant, they were still sergeants,
Hell yeah.
right?
That's a good feeling. Like,
So
I'm not trying to shit on people or anything that are struggling to get the rank and stuff, but it is a good feeling when you like promote faster than some of those that you see are unworthy of it, and you're getting to that level and you're like, okay, I'm getting recognized for my hard work now. I feel a little more accomplished.
yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective, the guy that took me to my sergeant board, I took to his staff sergeant board, right?
Damn. Damn.
But it wasn't about me passing people. Again, it was never about me, but I needed, because remember what the chaplain assistant said, I can't change anything if I'm at the bottom. So I
Yeah.
had to make it into the top to make change. So my motivation was getting promoted so I can help others, right? The
Yeah.
ones who were me back in the day, with my white power fucking squad leader, like that wasn't going to be me.
Mm-hmm.
So I became like more of a protector, of shit like that. Like I was very aggressive towards people that seemed to hint that way, right? So much that my first sergeant sent me to the EO leaders course to humble me again, right? Because I was so over the top with trying to make sure everybody was treated fair, equal, this and that. Like I was kind of counterproductive, right? In my approach to things. I had no filter. I had no tact. I had nothing. I was cussing people out left and right. I was, like it was pretty bad, right? And there's some troopers that are in today that used to be my soldiers back in the day, and they can attest that I was an ass. My wife could tell you that, but um, you know, but it was all good intentions, right? Because I thought I was doing the right thing, and I'm just going hard for everything and everybody, and it didn't matter who was in my way. Rank, I didn't see rank. I didn't see officer, NCO. I didn't see any of that. I just seen somebody in the way, and I'm gonna get them out of the way. So he sent me there, and without telling me why, he never made me an EO leader. He
Oh
sent me
wow.
there to show me,
Just to get the school and to see how what
to
what
show me,
yeah.
like to educate me on what I was doing was fucked up and how I was
Wow.
doing, but there was a better way. Because I asked him, I was like, "What am I going to do with this now?" He's like, "Nothing. I wanted you to learn something," right? And he was one of my biggest mentors. He still is. I still call him to this day. He's far retired, over 10 years now. But to this day, and he is probably the one that believed in me the most. This is a white guy from Tennessee, right? We don't have a whole lot in common, except for the way we handle business, and don't accept no for an answer, and taking care of people. He's seen that about me. He just wanted to shape that, right? And he's like, man, this dude's going to go a long ways. And I didn't see it at the time.
They say that's not to break the flow, because this is wild, but they say that's honestly a big thing for either young adults to people in their 20s and stuff. On the opposite spectrum, how many people would be successful if just one person told them, I believe in you and what you're doing is good, and I have faith in you that you're going to do great things, because what I can hear so far from your story is that there weren't a lot of people there were a lot of people that were neutral maybe, and then there was a lot of people that were negative saying you're not going to do good, but it's powerful when just one person tells you, hey, you're doing a good job, or I think you're going to do great things in life. That sets you on a trajectory sometimes to accomplish a lot. And I think it sounds like that guy was doing that a bit. It sounds like a lot of it was on your own, through tribulation and stuff. But I just want to point that for listeners and stuff. That's a big thing is, always support those people underneath you. That way they can succeed too and get to where, for good or better, like get them succeeding, like you want your guys to do good. That's just leadership 101, but I love hearing stories like that, of like that one leader that took an interest, I love that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one, but there's, I had 5 or 6 different mentors that were like that. All of them brought something different. All of them seen something different in me, and all of them pushed me in the same direction though, right? Like, these are leaders that came during different times that pushed me in different ways to the same place, right? To work on different things. And I'm still not perfect, like, by far, right? I got buku flaws, but the power of the tongue, right? Like, if you hear negativity for so long, you believe that you can't do anything, right? And for a long time, they were telling me that, but I wasn't hearing them. I listened to what they said, but I didn't hear them, right? So I was doing what they told me because that's what they told me to do, not because that's what I believed, right? So it took me a long time to believe what they were telling me, that I can do it, but I kept getting promoted, right? And, all I was doing was what they told me to do. And then as I'm getting promoted, I didn't even know I made Sergeant First Class. Didn't even know I was eligible for the board, because my head was that low, trying to just grind and get after it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was being looked at. I was deployed to Afghanistan 2008 and 9. And, this mentor, the one I've been talking about, we're in Afghanistan together. He brought me along with him. And I'm out at some remote location. And he shows up and he's like, hey, congratulations. I was like, on what? He was like, on Sergeant First Class. I was like, didn't know I was eligible. He was like, well, yeah. He's like, but since you're deployed, I got to take a photo of you because the board members want to know if you're fat or not. I was like, what? All right, cool.
Of course they do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, so take your top off and, just your T-shirt, and let me get a photo, and I'll take it back. Get it uploaded. I was like, all right. That was weird, but whatever. And, and when I came back, I was promotable to Sergeant First Class.
Yeah.
And I'd only been back in the Army maybe 4 years.
That's
I went from
wild.
specialist to Sergeant First Class.
And the time frame you're in is the craziest time frame realistically in the last 40 years of the Army. Like, that was the most hectic time.
Yeah. you know? So here I am, maybe 8 years in the Army, and I'm promotable to Sergeant First Class,
Yeah.
with the previous time in service and that present time in service.
Were you were you happy at that point? Did you feel happy, or were
Nah,
you? Yeah.
nah,
Yeah.
I was not satisfied at all.
Yeah.
Because I would look across the board at my peers. I'm like, these fuckers are Sergeant First Class too, and they suck.
Yeah.
I need to be a Master Sergeant or First Sergeant. And then, once I made the senior ranks, my mentorship changed into what I need to be focused on. Because I was a senior, they were like, what's your next step? I'm like, being a First Sergeant. They're like, nah, Sergeant Major. I was like, what? They're like, you need to set yourself up to become a Sergeant Major. Those are the things that you need to do now, because you doing those things now, you're going to make Master Sergeant because it's part of the track. But you need to set yourself up to be a Sergeant Major. So do those things, get educated, do the stuff that you need to do, start enrolling, because I wasn't doing college. I wasn't doing, I did the transfer credits and all, like everybody else
Yeah.
does, and try to get my weight up with my general studies and stuff like that. And I deployed all the time, right? I was always gone. It was hard. It took me almost 14 years to finish my degree online through deployments and stuff like that. I finished maybe I think 2014 is when I finished.
Yeah. With your
I
bachelor's
just never,
or
yeah.
okay.
I just did a straight bachelor's program.
Yeah.
I switched schools like 4 times
Oh yeah.
before I finished, and it was a pain, but I did it. And at this time, fast forward, like I'm at Eglin Air Force Base. I'm in 7th Group. I'm a team leader in CRD, and I was a team leader there.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's my you know, I'm I'm airborne, but I'm not fully airborne just because I went to the school and then I went to group and I jumped twice with them and then I left and I wasn't with the CRD. I ended up being with the ODB, and it was COVID when it happened. Like 3 months in, I was set to go to a couple schools, and we are going to Afghanistan next year. COVID happens, and then I get drill orders. So I was only there for a little bit. But I always, even at the beginning, of my career to even then and now, CRD has always been a, elusive dream to a lot of Seaburn people. They want to go there, or it's hard to get there and stuff. Were you excited for it? Was it something you strive for, or was it something you kind of fell into, or?
I chased it, right?
Yeah.
Because that was my mentality. Somebody told me no, I always found somebody to tell me yes. And that's how I always roll. If you tell me no, I'm going around you. I'm going over you. I'm going through you. Somebody's going to tell me yes. It took me calling HRC myself, talking to whoever the civilian branch manager was at the time.
Yeah.
And telling them what I wanted and why I was qualified and why I needed to go. And this was on a Friday. By that Tuesday, I was on orders.
If only it worked that good now. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's wild.
Again, I mean, somebody told me I couldn't do it, so I was like, watch me.
Yeah.
Right. And, I did it for a slew of reasons. One, selfishly, I'm from the area. I'm from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. That's where Eglin Air Force Base is. I was born on Eglin Air Force Base, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had a daughter there, who I'd been estranged from for many years, due to military life and, her mother. And, I thought that going there would put us close. My kids would be able to, have their grandparents. And, I had this vision of everything just being awesome.
Yeah.
And it was until I left, or at least I thought it was, but really wasn't that awesome. I mean, it was great being home and this and that, but I was never home.
Yeah, you were busy at that point, probably, right?
Well, yeah. For professionally, like it was the fastest time in my life, in my career. Out of the 5 years that I was there, I was gone 4 of them.
Holy shit.
And, I did back-to-back deployments, 2012, 13, and 14,
Yeah.
to supporting 2 different battalions over those couple of years.
Do you regret
And
that do you regret that, or was it, do you find solace in it in some points?
I'm proud of what we did.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we accomplished much, but what we did do, like, you know, we did it for each other, and we got after it. And I met a lot of solid dudes that I'm still in touch with today, who's still serving there. Most of them are Green Berets, but a lot of other detachment members and stuff like that, who stayed in and out of the community, but are still serving today. And a lot of them are out, but majority of them are still around. It was weird how I got over there. When I got over there, it was kind of turmoil time, changing of the guards and things like that. Because I was the second wave of what the CRD was. So you had the dudes, the plank holders that stood it up,
Started it, yeah.
and then you had the guys that started replacing those guys. I was the first guy to come in to start replacing them.
Oh.
So there was
And
a lot of.
You were a sergeant first class going in, right?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
most of these dudes were sergeants and staff sergeants. Like they weren't getting promoted. Like admin in their world sucked. I grew up being able to write evals, awards, things like that. Like I was developed properly. I knew how to take care of people. I knew how to take care of business, right? And I knew how to plan. I knew how to operate, and I knew how to execute. These guys didn't. They were loose cannons, and they just kind of did bro shit. Like I was like, this is an organization. This is how we're going to do it. So shortly after me arriving there, the detachment sergeant was removed. I was in tech escort at the time. When I came back, I was the guy, right? I was like, what? I was the only sergeant first class there.
Yeah.
And, eventually we got a few more, and, I kind of gave up the reins because a deployment was coming up and I was ready to go, and I was going to, replace the team that was over there. So I want to just do team leader stuff and train and all that. And like I said before, my dad was a combat controller, and right there at Hobart. So he helped me shape a lot of training, and he gave me land and opportunities to get my guys trained up and prepared properly to go. And, so that even, the GBs that were there, like trying to get land and trying to get on, as the new guys on the block, like they couldn't get it done. So they used to come to me too to help them get ranges and things like that, because, I had the GOAT down there at Hurlburt who's been there for 40 years that knew everything. Hell, there's training areas out there named after him and stuff like that. He's in the AFSOC Hall of Fame. Like this dude is done immaculate work, so
God damn.
I had a lot to live up to, being down there. And so I wanted to do things the right way, but I had to get rid of a lot of people who were counterproductive to where we were trying to go, where the detachment needed to go. It had a bad reputation at the time,
this is sorry. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, JD. I see a lot of similarities. The thing I noticed, I'm hitting. I'm on my 4th year of staff sergeant. I just started. Yeah, 4th year staff sergeant. I'm 9 years in next month. I'm hitting that point where, you want to succeed and you want everybody around you to succeed, but you notice there's a lot of either dead weight or people that just don't want to freaking try anymore, and you're sick of it. Do you find that hard to be like, hey man, cut sling load, like you got to get the fuck out of here, or you got to figure yourself out or something? Or was that easier back in the day to kind of go explain to people
it's never easy to change a culture.
Yeah.
Right. The only way you can change culture is by buy-in. right? So without buy-in, you ain't changing shit. So you don't necessarily have to be the leader of an organization to change the culture. You need to have influence.
Yes.
Again, I know how to influence my peers. I know how to set a standard and then be the example for others to follow. And I wasn't always like that, right? I was molded that way. I am a product of my environment and the people that help me win and succeed. I am a byproduct of all of them, right? All of them put a little bit, into my development and stuff like that. So I'm all the good. And I tell people, like, you can learn a lot from shitty leaders, right? And people
Oh
are like,
yeah.
how the hell do you do that? How do you do that? I'm like, well, you know exactly what you don't want to be, right? You know what wrong looks like now,
Yeah.
right? So you can learn that and you can say, am I doing these things? Am I in the gray? Am I taking care of this? Or, when I was in that situation, this is how I felt it. Or did any of my soldiers or any of my peers feel this way? You know, and you're just constantly assessing. But um, I um, I changed the culture. I've never changed the culture on my own, right? I've influenced others to help change by having buy-in, right? Getting their buy-in and giving them the opportunity. When I was a first sergeant, I let an E2 dictate to me how things should be for specialists and below. Gave me and I ran with it. I was like, bro, this is your world. If that's what you say, do it. Show me better than you can tell me. And I gave him the reins, right, to manage pretty much all the specialists and below in the company as a PFC. He had that much pull, right? Dude's a staff sergeant today, right? He was getting out after his initial term. He's a staff sergeant today, right? But I put him in a position to win. I put him in a position that forced him out of his shell, exactly what they did to me. And this dude took it and ran. In my opinion, at the time, and maturity level, he did it faster and better than I did, right? Um, but that's what happens, right? Because I gave him influence, right? I let him. I didn't really delegate it, but he volunteered after I, essentially just laid it out there, like, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And as a first sergeant, like, I didn't have hardly any issues at all, right? Like, with especially the E form, there was even NCO, like young sergeants who used to follow him, and do what he said until he became a sergeant, and he became a staff sergeant. Guess what? They were still sergeants. He was a PFC when they were sergeants. He's a staff sergeant. They're still sergeants,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And just put him in a position to win. But he helped me change the culture. It wasn't me. He helped influence that because he believed in what we were doing, So can you do that where you're at? It's possible. The type of work that you're out there doing, bless you, it's God's work, right? But it can be done if you got buy-in, with the right people.
I like
And it's not
buy-in.
everybody.
I like that term though. The buy-in thing is a big one of if everyone's buying into what you're selling, you know, it actually goes pretty smooth because I've seen that in play now that you explain that. Yeah.
Because now they're invested, right?
Yeah.
They have stake in it.
Mhm.
I make them stakeholders. You told me this is what you want, so I'm saying this is what you're going to get,
Mhm.
right? We're going to roll with your idea. Remember, this is your idea. I'm going to support you. Let's see where it goes. And they love it, right? They're like, oh, dang, first sergeants, let me do this thing. And, I got control and this and that. And I'm going to sit there and guide them along the way, right? Because I'm not just going to say, just run with it, right? I'm going to develop you, because you have potential. And then I develop them. And then from there, they run with it, right? And they're going to learn through their experience. And it's not all wins, right? There's some failure, but there's growth in that failure. And that's what's important, right? It's not just failing and just cussing them out, telling them, nah, I told you this shit wasn't going to work. It's not that. It's like, all right, cool. Let's analyze that for a minute. Right? Why did it go? Why did it not go that way? It's like, oh yeah, well, blah blah blah. All right,
Yeah, because
cool. Let's reset.
both people need to understand that why it went that
Exactly.
way. That way you can understand. Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, or I'm going to go at it this way.
Yeah. I mean, how many cat herders are there out there? You know what I mean? Because that's essentially what you're doing,
I heard you say
right?
that the other day, cat herder with your with Marcus, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a good
Out there
explanation.
herding cats,
Yeah,
man. That's what it is, dude. Like out there herding cats.
yeah,
So I know where you're going, right? Because I heard your podcast with Isaac, and you're at that pinnacle part of your career where you're deciding to stay or go.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
know where you're going with this, right? Um, and I'm going to tell you this right, and I do it to everybody. Ultimately, it's your decision, right? It's not just yours, but it's your family's decision. As a first sergeant, everybody that was due for reenlistment, everybody who was trying to ETS, everybody who was trying to make a crucial decision in their life sat with me and we talked. Like, you know, door shut, tops off, let's talk, right? Um, and if you are prepared properly to exit the military for your family's sake, then it's not a bad choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're iffy and you're like, I don't know, I'm kind of rolling. If there's any inkling where you're like, oh man, I would say don't do it, you know. But I say it from a place that I got out before. I wasn't prepared properly to get out, and I lost my ass. Like I was out there, like damn near putting a fucking ski mask on, robbing 7-Eleven. That's how broke I was, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't prepared. And I already had kids at the time. And I was like, man, this hurts more now than ever because we're opening cold cans of corn, eating this shit at Christmas time because the heat's not on and we can't cook anything, like type of poor.
Yeah.
So we had that candid conversation, and you need to have your family involved in a decision like that because it affects everybody. If your kids are old enough, they need to be involved too. But maybe it's your circumstances, right? Can your circumstances change? Yeah, they could. Is the grass always greener? Well, we already know. Not always.
Yeah.
Where you're at right now, there's a lot of people that feel like you do. I hear it all the time. I talk to everybody, and everybody wants to talk to me, right?
Well, I'm sure
Um,
where you're at too, because you hear from 101st, 82nd, 10th Mountain. You
I
know
hear
the
from
staff
everybody, not just
sergeants. That's
everybody
yeah,
across the whole army.
yeah.
You know, um, I talk to a lot of people. That's damn near most of my day,
It's a
right?
hard yeah. It's a hard topic. It's a hard fucking
So
topic. And
what I'm telling you is you're not the only one that's kind of up in the air, right? Like it's a it's a thing. And you know, like I said, how my story started, I wanted to be a football player. I want to be in the NFL, and I wanted to, live that life. And it didn't work that way, but I still
yeah,
found success in what I did. And I told myself that when I start the next thing, because that was the only thing I ever quit in my life. So when I started the next thing, I wasn't going to quit, right? No matter how much. And I've been poached by industry with some six-figure contracts to get out and go be a contractor and make quadruple what I was making with less effort and heartache and pain. I was like, no, I'm going to finish what I started. I'm going to retire. I'm going to get out, and then I can figure out money didn't motivate me. Money doesn't motivate me, right? My family has everything that they want and everything that they need. I'm good with that. Though my kids are like, man, I wish, you could have bought me a car and done all this, but we ain't rolling like that.
yeah,
But, they have everything they need and most of the things that they want, I guess. But my family's taken care of, and the Army did that, right? Yeah, I had to sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, but my family was taken care of, and that was first and
that's the
foremost.
number
Like
one. Yeah, that's the
that's
number
number one.
one.
So that's why I say in your decision, right? When you're coming up on 10 years and you've been a staff sergeant 4 years, and you're like, man, I'm on the fence. Right now is the time where I stay or go because I'm halfway there, right? They need to be involved because it is a big decision. Because in 10 more years, you got to check for the rest of your life. You know,
Yeah.
In 10 years, goes by pretty quick. I'm at 24. In May, it'd be 25. Active service, with pay, because our prior service, I already get paid for 27 years. I get
Yeah.
paid more, than what I'm actually, where I'm actually at. So, you know, none of us are here to get rich. We do it for whatever reasons. Everybody has their own reasons, and I don't fault people for whatever that reason is, but I do tell them, like, while you're in uniform and while you wear that patch, like, you're going to be the best, at what it is that you're doing. You're going to give 100% while you're here, right? That's how we roll in this organization, because your peers will call you out if you don't, right? Because that was one of the things that this guy wanted to do as a PFC, right? He was like, I'm going to call these mugs out if they're not working. Cool, do it.
Yeah.
So we call
100%.
it peer policing, right? But I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't influencing that, right? He was doing it. And then they started, getting on each other, and then eventually they became a team.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever had to do that. Drills do that all the time. They have to call each other out at a certain point, and you're just like, you're a staff sergeant, dude, or a sergeant first class. I shouldn't have to tell you this stuff, but we're at that point now. I got to bring shit up, and it's rough. It can be rough.
So, fun fact about me: never been a drill sergeant, never been a recruiter, never been an instructor.
I know. I have like a list of questions.
Never been to Korea, not even passing through.
I have this giant list of questions for you at the end.
48th
I don't get it.
Never been to 20th Seaburn.
I don't get it. And you made Sergeant Major like at a very good rate. At a very, very good rate.
Yeah. So, I actually stalled myself. I didn't tell that story, but I should have made it.
Well, here I want to get through it. So you're at Eglin.
Yeah.
You're at Eglin. It was. You said it was okay. It was not the best, not the worst, but it was decent.
No, I loved it. Like, I had a purpose. We were getting after it. We were deploying. Like, we were winning.
A lot of deployments, GWAT, or just different missions.
Yeah. So we had JSETs too. So in between, we go down south. And we still had PME that dudes had to go to, and
right,
things like that. So, like, between deploying, PME, JSETs, like, we were gone.
Yeah, busy.
These trips down south, like, they were 30 to 90 to 120 days. So yeah, it was a lot going on.
Yeah,
we were working, doing some good stuff down there and down south. Like, we had a lot of guys that got after it down there, and got some great experience and stuff. But all good things there come to an end, and so I'm getting ready. My wife wanted to go to Europe, so my wife's English, from England.
Oh, from England.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she wanted to go to Europe, and obviously, I can't do that if I'm stationed, at Eglin in 7th Group. And so I had to slate out. And even the group CSM was like, what are you doing? He's like, nah, man, like, you're the guy. He's like, you know what? Just go to selection, become a GB, blah, blah, blah. I was like, look, man, I've done pretty much everything that you guys do, and there's really not much else left for me to do here. He's like, I've been in 7th Group 23 years, I made it. I was like, it's cool, but you don't go anywhere and do anything. Like, I'm trying to go to Europe. My wife wants to go to Europe.
Trying to travel, so, yeah, be supportive of that, yeah.
And at this time, I'm at like 14, almost 15 years in, so I'm like, I need to do something else. We haven't been overseas, so I call HRC. I'm like, hey, I'm going to slate out. What are my options? At that time, you could stay in SOF as long as you wanted.
Yeah, because there was so little of you, probably, right?
Yeah, you're considered like gone as far as HRC couldn't touch you at the time back then.
Yeah.
So that's why those dudes were over there forever, but they were like sergeants, staff sergeants. Like they weren't getting promoted because nobody knew them.
Yeah.
Their evals suck. But I was like, I'm slating out, what are my options? And branch manager was a master sergeant at the time. He's like, you need to do an overseas tour. I was like, good, because I was about to say I want to go to Europe. He's like, nah.
Korea.
I was like, what? He was like, you need to go to Korea.
God damn it.
I was like, nah, man. I said Europe. Like, that's overseas. He's like, I know. I was like, look, I need to take a knee. I need to get my family straight. We're on fucking rocky roads. I need something where I can I want to go to Europe, but I want to be with my family. I ain't trying to deploy this and that. And he was like, well, you're killing your career if you do that. I was like, I don't care. He's like, you ain't going to get promoted. I was like, I don't care. You're not hearing me. Right. And
yeah,
so
sometimes it's deeper than
like
that.
Two weeks go by, right? And I'm just like, dude. He's like, finally sent me the list. Because back then you couldn't really look things up on your own. So he sent me all the requisition, all the open spots. So Italy's on there because we wanted to go to, we were looking for Germany and stuff like that. It wasn't available, but Italy was on there.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool, I'll take Italy. And he's like, no, it's a staff position. Like, you need to. I was like, dude, I ain't never done staff.
I'll take it.
14 years, right? Like, just at the company and team level the whole time, right? And he argued. He's like, you know what? Fine. If you want Italy, I'll put you in for Italy. But if you come out on this master sergeant list, you're going to Korea or Polk. I was like, what the fuck? So I was like, well, give me a day. Let me talk to the family. And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, look, they got Italy. She was like, cool. When are we going? I was like, hold on.
But
hold on. If I make master sergeant, I have to go to Korea or Polk. She's like, well, I'm going to Europe. I was like, fuck.
Oh, shit.
I was like, so what I'm going to have to do is decline the board.
Oh, yeah.
Back then you can decline.
Yeah.
You want to be looked at or not. I was like, she's like, well, what do you think your chances are? I was like, I've been promoted below the zone all the way up to this point. So I'm pretty sure this is my first look. Like, I'm going to make it. Not to be cocky or anything, but that was just.
Right, but that was where you were at.
Everything that I've done up to that point was like, this is where these dudes were grooming me. So 14 years, I would have made staff sergeant or master sergeant.
Yeah.
Right? So I went back and I told HRC, I was like, put me in for Italy. And he was like, all right, cool. You're on assignment. It'll show up, populate next week. I waited for it to populate. As soon as it populated, I declined the board.
Hell yeah. Sometimes you got to make those decisions for your family, though. Like that.
Yeah.
I think that's cool what you did. A lot of people would probably be like, I'm going to take one break. I want to jump back into this because this obviously led to a lot of things, but I want to say that's an adult decision for you and your family to decide that,
Yeah.
But we'll be right back with that.
We will be back next week with the rest of JD's story. Stay tuned, spread the word, and see you next week.
Hey guys, while we're on this break, I want to reach out. I know around this time of year, it's getting cold. We got the holidays coming up, Halloween, Thanksgiving. You know what I get? It's hungry. I get those home style foods going on. And what better way to crave that than Lake's Homestead Goods? Okay, it's actually ran by my wife, Danielle, runs it off her Facebook page, or you can reach out at 417-365-4993. She makes everything from homemade bread, whether it's cinnamon raisin and white bread, to butter, homemade butter, cookies, any type of thing you can think of. She's even working on other stuff right now. Reach out. She is the one to set you up with homemade products that are good and good for you. Thanks, guys. Guys, to end off this podcast, I just wanted to point out two of the coolest people while they're not sponsors, they are people that what they're doing is near and dear to my heart, okay? First off, I want to talk about the bus stop, which was ran by Eric's wife, Kendall, okay? It's called the bus stop, and they sell coffee and gathered goods, okay? Which means she's culminating a whole lot of things, such as I've seen stickers to mugs to wicker baskets to T-shirts to a whole lot of stuff that's really like not only kitschy, but it's cool and it's good gifts. It's those kind of things, you know, as a family you go looking for on the weekends and you're like, that's a cool little spot. Not to mention they made it entirely out of a bus. Go check it out. You're going to love it, okay? Their hours are from on Thursday through Sunday, it's 7 to 3, and then on Monday it's 5:30 to noon. All right, let's just talk about some of their drinks they got going. They got the white pumpkin. They got the bonfire. It's my favorite. The bonfire was amazing with what I had. They got the deer hunter, which is for these badasses around here. They got caramel apple, the nutty squirrel, the whipped vanilla chai, and a sweet leaf, as well as just regular drip coffee, which they are excellent at, and other espressos and frappes, which everybody's going to love. A whole lot of options. Get out there, get you some good coffee, try it out, okay? The next one I want to talk about is Fifth Element Tattoo. Okay, this is what, while we didn't dive into it this episode with Eric, this is his baby that he's been running actually for a couple years now. So the experience they have there, by not only by him, but one of the people he taught, Jenna, and then their new person, Jennifer, okay? All their pieces, if you look on the Facebook, they are amazing. Okay, I can't wait to go get one myself there, hopefully. It is by appointment only, okay? So if you go on their Facebook, you can literally see the link. It books right with them. It works right off a schedule. Reach out to them. Get you something going. It's not that bad, all right? But these people are actually injecting a new economy into Marys County, which I think is outstanding, okay? Thank you guys for your support, and take care.